Yo, what is up? We got some legends on the stage today. What's up, Andrew? How we doing?
Whoop, whoop.
That's what we like to hear. That's what we like to hear. We got somebody from the plague here. How we doing, G3PO? We living good today?
Hey man, I'm doing good. Sorry for the voice. I woke up a little sick, but I'm
Damn,
still here.
you're a warrior, bro. I appreciate you still like powering through and showing up, man. That says a lot about you. So appreciate that.
All good, man. All good. Appreciate you
Of
having us
course,
here.
Fungi Alpha. How we living today?
Morning. We're like rockets.
A rocket. Hell yeah, man. That's what we like to.
Every, I mean, come on, man. Every day is a good day if you know what to do, right?
That is true. Every day is a good day. That's the mentality I like to see. It looks like Swanky just connected too. What's up, Swanky? How we living? Oh, GM man, GM. Thanks so much for joining today. Happy Thursday. Um,
Yeah, happy Thursday. Nearly a long weekend coming up as well, so it should be good.
it is a long week coming up. I honestly did not even remember that. Thank you for that little reminder. Monday it'll be a good one. Yeah, well, look, I guess to start off, it'd be cool if you guys could just, give a little background on yourselves. Like, Andrew and I, Hashflow, like, we know a little bit about you, but for the people who maybe don't know, that'd be dope if you could do that. I guess, Plague, you guys want to start first?
Yeah, Swanky, you want to take it away?
Yeah, oh, a bit about. Well, I'm Swanky. I'm the one of the community managers for the Plague. Me and G3 have been with the project since since it before it minted, before it began. Kind of Pons brought me and G3 on, and we brought the rest of the team on, and and that was seemed like about 15 years ago, but it was just over a year ago. Uh, yeah, I mean, I'm sure most of the listeners in here know what the frogs are, so I won't go through all that. I've done that about 50 million times since this year. So, yeah, that's it.
Love that.
Yeah, man. As Swanky said, we are the CMs for the plague. That'll probably be changing a little bit just as we try to manage some of the projects and products. So we'll still be doing some CM work, but we'll probably focus more on products and the projects we have in the pipeline. But yeah, I've been with the Plague since its very inception. Swanky and I were the first two in the Discord. If you hear my daughter in the back, I'm sorry about that. I have twins actually that are here with me. So I'm a twin dad. I guess a little bit more about me. Joined Web3, gosh, almost 2 years ago now. It seems like a lifetime ago, like Swanky said. But just been here, basically grinding it out, trying to put in as much positive energy as I'm getting out of it. But yeah, super happy to be here. Really appreciate you having
Of
us.
course, man. I'm actually also a twin too. That's funny. I have a twin sister, so we got some twin energy in the space right now. It's dope.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I love my twins. They're a year old, but just their little connection always it's
Yeah,
cool
it's,
to
it's
see.
an interesting experience, man. That's for sure. Being a twin, I could say it's yeah, definitely a vibe. Well, I guess Fungi Alpha. I guess if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit about you, and then we can dive right into the questions.
Oh yeah, sure. First of all, thanks for inviting me. Actually, us to this AMA. Unfortunately, Lewis is not here with us. I think he's probably riding his bike somewhere outside because he's, you know, that's his hobby, right? So Lewis and I co-founded Fungi. Like we started the Twitter back in December, and we started actually a Telegram group back in November. It used to be just an alpha group, with a focus on mutual empowerment and helping each other learn DeFi and how to actually properly research and then ape together and whatnot. And we figured out we should go one level above, and that's why we created our Twitter. And you've probably seen our content because we push out weekly recaps very frequently, alpha lists, and then threads on various DeFi protocols, and I hope you like it. So what we're planning to do is we're working on our newsletter. It should be out pretty soon. That's regarding Fungi. So we're basically a community hub with a focus on DeFi and crypto in general. And I myself, I'm not that long actually in crypto. I'm in crypto since 2021, but I spend like 90% of my time in crypto. And when I started in crypto, it's a funny story because I was very active in a Telegram group and somewhat knowledgeable about the chain the group was off, and they actually hired me to become one of the moderators, and later on gave me a role as a business development manager and marketing lead. And after a year or so, we split paths, and I decided to go a freelancer route, and that's how actually I started Fungi with Lewis. I'm a bit excited, so I hope you don't mind.
We appreciate you. I mean, you're kind of alluding to the first questions. I'm just going to dive in because this one kind of is for you first here. Fungi Alpha, you share a weekly DeFi update covering the latest news in our industry. What trends and recent developments are you excited about? And for both of you, what makes you both still bullish on DeFi and crypto? After a volatile 2022.
I mean, what makes us bullish on DeFi and crypto? Obviously, that the current financial situation, in the world looks like crap. So we definitely need a substitution to that, and obviously DeFi is doing the job. And fortunately, it's maturing, because if you think about DeFi back in 2021, it was Ponzi farms and goose forks, and now you have tokenized real world assets and whatnot, and it's a very, very exciting place to be. And regarding our weekly recaps, just one thing that I would like to mention here is that we don't. There's a lot of groups which are pushing out weekly recaps, right? And they're writing what happened in the past several days, but we have a completely different model here. We try to dig out news which are not that, which is like, when I write these weekly recaps, I'll go to discords of projects, I go to their Twitters, I check their snapshots, and that's where I dig out all of the information. And it's specifically on DeFi, so it's not that much macro and whatnot. What I'm personally the most excited about is obviously the LSDFi space, because we see this one is flourishing, right? And the real world assets niche, because if you think about it, my personal opinion is that if you want to get mass adoption of crypto, there is a couple of things which could spark such trend. One of them could be real world assets, right? Because you can tokenize them and you can use different financial instruments in crypto. The other one would be stablecoin remittances, right? Because you have Visa and all these big companies, and once they figure out the stablecoins are actually way cheaper to use, way faster, and it requires way less manpower to handle, it's probably something that could kickstart mass adoption. And institutions know that as well, so that's probably the reason why they're so harsh on stablecoins and why they're so bullish on real world assets.
Definitely, man. Definitely a good take there. At Swanky, G3PO, kind of same question about you. It's been like a volatile 2022 to say the least. What makes you both still bullish on DeFi and crypto? And obviously, if there's anything that you're excited about, feel free to share that as well.
Yeah, I don't know that I'll be able to give an in-depth analysis as the person just went before me. Props to that. But I think it's just the fact that people are still here, right? I mean, we've had one of the pretty long bear market now, and people are still showing up. I mean, you look at all these coins and all these holders; it's only increasing. Prices may not skyrocket or as we want them to, but and not only that, I think on a global scale, if you look at trends. Our population is getting younger and younger and younger. There's more people being born, and so what I want to segue into that is that if you look at people that are into crypto, into NFT, into all these things, it's generally speaking the younger population, and if you look across global trends, all these people are kind of floating away from norms, right? They're kind of going away from banks and currency being held in those banks and in a decentralized platform. They're shifting away from traditional religion. So they're kind of breaking off and segmenting into their own way of doing things. And I think crypto has that attention, and it has a chance to really become something for the folks that are coming in, not just the Gen Zers, but the generations that come after them. And again, it kind of loops all the way back in, is that people are still here, and we're getting more and more people, and the ages are becoming younger and younger. And so after a while, it's not just a trend anymore. It becomes the norm. So again, on top of use cases, It's the fact that people are interested in it and they continue to be here.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, first off, G3PO, amazing ENS name. but I was gonna say it's interesting that you bring this up, because I had a pretty in-depth conversation yesterday with a family member, because I have a younger family member who is basically aligning with everything that you're saying. Like every single norm that folks like myself have grown up with are like thrown out the window. It's I don't care if I have a consistent income number every month. I don't care if I have to arbitrage life and move to a place where cost of living is cheaper. I think part of it is you have an entire generation that grew up online. And I think by being online, it broke down so many barriers, both like geo and non-geo. And it's so interesting because I look at what he's doing, and oftentimes I say to myself, this is exactly what I would be doing if I were his age, if I didn't have, a family, if I didn't have a mortgage. So I very much agree with everything that you're saying. And I think like we're seeing even more just a giant cultural shift with the younger generation that I think aligns with a lot of the ethos of crypto. So so really, really good points that you made there, I thought.
Yeah. I mean, I won't disclose who I work for here, but I work for a Fortune 100 company in the corporate sector, and the amount of studies and money going into how do we captivate these younger audiences to come work for us is insane. So you kind of follow the money. Where is that going? And so again, it just paints this picture that younger generations are just breaking off from traditional norms, and crypto is, like you said, that's the ethos, right? We're not doing it the same old way that it's been done for the last 150 years.
Yep.
This is something new and innovative.
No, I agree. And even going back to the Fortune 100 combo, I mean, I was at Amazon for 3 years on the global brand marketing team, and I can tell you point blank, you are 100% correct, because one of our biggest focuses at that time, even for myself, was how do we market to younger generations? How do we reach folks that we can't reach through traditional channels? How do we leverage those non-traditional channels in effective ways? So it is very much at the top of everybody's list right now.
Swanky, anything to add, sir?
So yeah, I was just going to reset the question. So basically, why we're still bullish after the hell we've been through in the bet. I mean, I think there's I'm not a great trader. I'm not great on tech, so I know you guys have touched on this. But from my point of view, I think community is intertwined with all this. Even when we see the latest batch of coins, they're all trying to get that community focus. So I think that factors into why people are staying here. And I think lack of trust in like traditional banking system. Yet again, this year there's been multiple times where where your supposedly safe money isn't safe. So I think the tech is here to stay. And I think that's why people are staying through the bear, because they know ultimately this tech and this way of moving and managing your own money is the way of the future. But I think community is really intertwined with that. So that's why people, let's say if the bear. I mean, I wasn't really here on the earlier on in crypto, but I would imagine the bear hit harder then, because there's not as much focus on community that there is now.
Definitely well said, sir. And kind of speaking of tech, both of your communities, the Fungi Alpha and the Plague are very super tapped into Web3 and crypto. Are there any tools that you've used over your time in this space that you enjoy using, like wallets, dexes, other platforms? Is there any ones that come to mind? I guess Plague, you guys want to take this one first?
Well, start off I can't remember. There's a couple, but Pocket University is the first one that comes to mind. I suggest everyone get something that connects to your wallet that either simulates a transaction, tells you what transaction is going to happen, but rather than just be open out there, click it. And so that's one of the most useful tools I've seen. I would shout that out straight away.
Swanky, one tool I'd call out kind of similar to that is I've been a big fan of what WalletGuard is doing, and I know they're working with Alchemy and other wallet providers, but being able to see an event before it occurs, I think is obviously one of the best ways to prevent wallet hacks. But I agree with you. I love everyone that's kind of innovating in that space right now.
Yeah, I've actually got WalletGuard as well. That's what I'm thinking. So I've got both. You can have more than one on there. I've actually got both on there. You can't be too secure, so it might take a bit longer to go through a transaction, which is good as well. Stops you being scammed, and also makes you think about should I be making that transaction as well. So I think that's a double layer.
Yeah, met the Wallet Guard team in Indianapolis actually. Like some really nice people. G3PO. Anything that comes to mind for you, sir?
Nothing outside of Pocket Universe. I mean, besides the tech that we're layering on now, right? Like smart contracts. That to me was a foreign concept 2.5 years ago. I knew nothing about this. So the fact that, these are basically not living computers, it's not quite AI, but they're really smart computers that lie within these contracts, for lack of better word. So just the entire infrastructure that people are working on. I've got to work with, and not from a dev standpoint. I mean, work with devs and just going into their minds. It's like, holy cow, this is insane. I'm probably a little too late, but it's like I'm already getting my son into coding and software and all that stuff because it's the future. I mean, it's flat out simple.
Yeah, the technology is borderline scary sometimes, honestly. Fungi, anything that jumps to mind to you, sir?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm personally a fan of everything the DeFi Llama team ships. So I think it's one of the best analytics platforms for DeFi. Generally, if you're looking for yield opportunities, if you're looking for information such as what amounts of money teams have raised, and what platforms have been exploited. Unfortunately, everything can be found on DeFi Llama. And I actually, to everybody who wants to dive into DeFi, I suggest to try to learn how to use properly DeFi Llama. Right? I mean, there's a plethora of tools that I personally use, and I could speak about that topic for at least 6 hours, to be honest with you. But I would definitely suggest DeFi Llama to everybody, and for portfolio tracking, DBank, and for wallets, I personally like Rabby the most.
Massive. I love that.
A little DeFi Llama alpha for you. Also a DeFi Llama power user. Nice little trick. I go on the site. I find all the dashboards that I want. I basically save those to my phone as shortcuts, and then I have a folder of basically all my dashboards on my phone that I can check in real time. So, yeah, huge fan of DeFi Llama.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, it's very customizable, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I think I spent once like 8 hours straight just researching new protocols on DeFi Llama. I think that out of head, I know at least 60% of all the platforms which are listed on DeFi Llama, and it's in those times when you probably heard about Gains Network on Polygon and on Arbitrum, and it went full Rambo. The token pumped like mad, and I've seen it like when it was below 50 cents. That was at that time when I was like just browsing DeFi Llama for 8 hours straight. It's really a gold mine, if you know how to use the tool properly.
Let's go. Talk about alpha, man. I mean, I tell you, there's a lot of alpha in this space so far. Next question here. The industry seems to be leaning more and more towards gaming. Is this a pie in the sky hope with regards to mass adoption? Or do you see games or gamified experiences really being able to take off? And the follow-up question would be, have either of you actually played a Web3 game you enjoyed? I guess, Play, you can take this one first.
Yeah, this is an interesting question because I think if you're in Web3, there's really only two sides. You are a Web3 game maxi, or you're super bearish on Web3 gaming. It's a fork in the road. I don't know where I stand because when I first entered Web3, it was like, oh, this is the future of Web3 gaming, and then it turns out all these projects, and I knew it because I've been gaming since I was 5 years old, that it would take a little bit longer. But I think overall, gaming has a future in Web3. I think it almost has to. You look at this again, going back to the younger generation. There's kids making a few $100s selling rare skins on all types of games. You have Roblox, you have Call of Duty. I mean, Rust. There's just so many games that involves you personalizing your character, and that's what NFTs at least let you do for the most part. It lets you play a certain character or a certain someone online. I think that transition is bound to happen. I don't know how long it's going to take. I think it will take a little bit longer. But we have already started seeing a lot of these big video game companies jumping in. So I think short term, probably not, but over the course of the next 5 to 10 years, I think it's inevitable. But gaming is going to come to Web3. Again, we just talked a little bit before that these big companies are trying to market generations coming, then games have always been a huge part of every youth. So yeah, I think it's inevitable. I just don't know what that timeline looks like.
Yeah, G3. One thing I was going to say, which is interesting, as I started to see more games leveraging like an on-chain, off-chain hybrid model. So, you're using the chain to basically connect in. Then most of the game is built on like a Unity engine, and then you're, reconnecting to the chain on your way out. So some of those games that I've seen are starting to look like even Super NES type games. But I agree with you. I mean, the bulk of what you see right now is definitely more kind of GameFi staking oriented, which I love that stuff. I know a lot of folks that do, but I do find that, to your point, like a lot of traditional gamers don't really look at it as gaming.
Yeah, and for the follow-up question, there's not a Web3 game that I've played yet, to be honest. I've played a few demos, but I don't really consider that. I've watched some gameplay, and it's pretty cool. But, you get back to the decentralized part of that. I think that's what is really holding a lot of this tech back, is that people want decentralization until something happens, like they get hacked or something gets stolen. And it's like, while I feel very bad for them, let's say you've racked up a bunch of rare skins and something happens, the decentralization part of that is that you can't really cry about it, right? Because there is no security. Whereas versus, EA or some of these larger companies on an Xbox or PS5 can probably protect you a little bit. So it's going to be a fine line trying to tweak and work into that. But again, I think at the end of the day, gaming will be here in some Web3 gaming will be here in some shape or form.
Definitely a good take. Swanky, any thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with G3. I think it's only a matter of time. I think it just needs one big success story, one big sort of use case where it pops off, so to speak, and and lots of people see the proposition. I think there's been a lot of false starts, a lot of, and I think that put Web3 gaming back a couple of years, things like Pixelmon raising all that money and then like not coming out with it, so I think definitely the shift has changed more to Web3, gaming companies trying to get the game either virtually complete, almost complete, or good sort of demo before they even try to go to mint, rather than back in the day it was just like invest in this and we'll build a game. So, but I just think it needs the right game or the right gaming company to come in and take an interest in Web3, and you get a game, something like it'd be huge, but like the popularity of Minecraft or Fortnite or whatever it may be that's using sorts of Web3 elements, then the rest of the world are going to wake up and go, what the shit is this? And then we'll get back. So I think it's only a matter of time. How long that time is going to take, I don't know, because I think we need that real big game, Web3 game, to come out there and non-Web3 people to pay attention to it. And once that happens, then I think the floodgates will open.
And have you played a Web3 game, Swanky, that you've enjoyed?
I can't say that I have. I mean, as like G3, I've seen a few demos. I played a few sort of Web3 mini games. But what all classes of Web3 in my eyes? What we talk about here, Web3 game is something like I've got a PS5, something something that I'm going to want to spend 30 hours, 40 hours gameplay on, or whatever, or something multiplayer, rather than a mini game, a phone game. Even though that is looked a bit, it is a Web3 game. In my mind, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a big AAA, gaming experience. I don't think there's anything like that yet, or I haven't played anything like that yet.
100%. I haven't either. I just was curious. Fungi Alpha, curious what your take is on this question as well.
Yeah, so that's a very good question. Well, first of all, I've been, a gamer. I was born back in the 80s, so I'm, from the generation which was used to Nintendo and, the PlayStation and Gran Turismo and Soul Reaver and whatnot, So been also playing World of Warcraft for a couple of years. The problem with the gaming industry in Web3 is that the focus was not on gaming. The focus was on making money, So all of these play-to-earn games have actually ruined the start of the gaming industry. It's because it just, attracted mercenaries to people who were just abusing the mechanics of the game to make money. So they were not here for the game itself. I've played a couple of games in the Web3. So one of them will be Skyweaver, which is basically something similar to Magic the Gathering. It's a TCG, and it's quite a good game. It's being ran on Polygon. There are a couple of good titles which I personally think could do well, like Illuvium or Treeverse, and I've also played a couple of other games like the Plushies. It's a new game. It's like a storytelling game. It's quite cute. I personally think that gaming will take a huge share of Web3 because it's a huge industry in real life. It makes more money than some sports do, and it's insane when you think about it. And where I think the value proposition lies is in esports, because you can organize tournaments on the blockchain, and you can have prizes transact way faster and way cheaper than it would be if you were to use, say, Steam or any other platform. So I think that's where the value proposition lies. And also, I'm very bullish on NFTs and their use cases. So NFTs will definitely have a role in the future, not just in Web3, but also outside of it, because you have also platforms like Get Protocol, which works on ticketing solutions for matches, concerts, and whatnot. So very bullish on gaming, but I personally think that it will take at least 2 or 3 years for a mass adoption of gaming. But if you want to dive deeper into it, there actually are a couple of well-known names in the gaming space, like Square Enix, the creators of Final Fantasy, who are invested in a couple of Web3 games which are being built. And then Animoca Brands is one of the biggest VC funds which specifically invests into gaming and metaverse. And you can see there's really, really big amounts of money being invested. It's like, you wouldn't even believe it. There's $1 billion funds, specifically only for gaming and for metaverse purposes.
Alan, were you saying something?
Andrew, sorry, my fault.
Oh, no. I was just going to jump into the next question. I guess we'll leak a little more alpha. So anyone that has joined the guild yet has probably noticed there's an alpha align section. And if they dig into that, they're going to see some familiar names, 2 of which are Fungi Alpha and the Plague. So that being said, a little alpha for folks, join an alpha allegiance for the Hashverse. And so obviously the Hashverse is launching soon. We partnered with Superconductor, who are the creators behind Avengers and Fast and Furious. So hopefully we will have a game that folks finally enjoy to play. But you guys are both going to be in the first ever Battle Royale. And I know how popular both of you guys are and how many folks reach out to you daily. What got you excited about the Hashverse? What made you want to be an Alpha Allegiance? And we'll get a little spicy. Who do you want to wreck?
G3, you want to go first?
Sorry, guys, I am changing a diaper. I'll let Swanky take this one.
Yeah. Who else is in there again? Remind me who else is in there? What are the community? Who do we want to wreck? Oh, as in the frogs who would want to wreck? Well,
sure. You want to go crazy on the alpha now?
It would.
We've got.
Ponds would be a great one.
I'll throw out a couple for you guys. We've got Cotton Pie Pandas. We've got a Degens Allegiance. We've got a Seals Allegiance.
Well, you can just stop there. You can stop there because you only after that. Plagues, frogs and seals have that. It comes from the top, doesn't it, with Ponds and Wab's rivalry? But frogs and seals have that friendly rivalry. So yeah, definitely, frogs versus seals head to head is always fun. It's always been fun ever since we pretty much minted. There's been frogs and seals head to head in everything. So look forward to that.
I love it. I look forward to some spicy banter with Wab. We a little more alpha. We are launching a Smack Talk Discord channel. We hired one of the most degen artists I know to do the stickers for that. So you'll have a lot of fun in there, I think.
Oh yeah, that sounds like somewhere to spend a Friday evening with a few beers. Sounds fun.
Exactly. What about you, Mr. Fungi?
So the question was, who would I wreck in that tournament, right?
Yeah, I mean, so I guess you could lean in with kind of what are you excited about? What made you want to be a part of it? Because obviously we didn't invite everyone, and we're very, very excited about the folks that are going to be a part of it. And then obviously, if you want to get a little spicy, feel free to jump in with who you plan on.
Okay, it excites me for one reason. in particular, and that's actually that we don't have any NFTs, so we don't have our Fungi Alpha NFTs. It has been in plans, but now there is a new dimension to it, and it will probably kickstart, the creation of our own series, of our own PFPs. I'm not so the Bored Apes and Punks, they're not included, right?
Alan, you wanna talk about that or
no? Yeah, I mean, look, this is just the first season of the battle royale, so like, there's no Bored Ape or Punk faction right now. You'll have to.
Okay.
There might be some people, some holders who are playing that. If you want to, if you want to wreck them, I'm sure that you can do that. But, yeah, they're not involved in this one.
Yeah, and just for a little more context, I think like the biggest thing for us was we were looking for communities that we feel like are very active. We were looking for communities that are very strong and unified, and then obviously we're looking for communities that that skew a little bit towards the DeFi and trader space. So in general, you'll notice there are some communities on here that are massive. There's some communities that are small, but we find that some of these small ones we think are going to be the Davids versus Goliaths in the battle royales, which should be really fun.
100%. Well, look, we appreciate that take from you guys, and the follow-up question really is that there is a significant amount of prize money that's up for grabs. We don't want to give away too much, but it's definitely a substantial amount. How would you guys probably probably spend this? Is there any strategy that you're going to be using for this victory, and also, is there any strategies that you're going to incorporate to try and secure victory on the battlefield in this competition? It's a trading competition, so I don't know what your background is when it comes to trading, and there's some quests as well that you can jump into. But yeah, would love to hear some background on that. Plague, you guys go first.
Yeah, I myself am a terrible trader. I didn't do that Goblin Town bigging thing just because I don't want to embarrass myself and knock everybody out of the park. But we do have a group of frogs that are pretty good. They're very active in that scene. So I'm just gonna leave it up to them. I'm gonna let them do their thing. They've been riding some pretty big waves with trying to think of a better word than shitcoin, meme coin season. So I'm just gonna let them do their thing, and I think we got a pretty good shot.
Swanky, anything to add there?
Yeah, just I agree. I'm like G3. I mean, he said it's a terrible trade. I do never follow my trades, Jesus. I mean, I suck at that. But in terms of the gameplay with I go aggression is what it's all about. So, but yeah, I mean, don't put me in your trading team unless maybe you could get me on the opposite team you want to lose, and then that might be a good play for you. So I'm happy to go on another team and like be there, sort of weight them down and put a big minus on their trade. So hit me up.
I'll give you guys a little more alpha. There is a game guide that will be coming out very soon, and while the bulk of the battle royale is obviously a trading competition, there are going to be two other paths that you can take if you are not a hardcore trader. So I call this out because G3 and Swanky, you can still have a pretty big impact. So you'll learn more about that pretty soon.
100%. Lots of information coming out every day. And I guess Fungi, I'd love to hear your take on that too. Do you have a trading background? Do you have any strategies you think will help you win trading competitions?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think our group, so we have a small Telegram group. It's like 300-ish people, and it consists of of a good number of well-known crypto Twitter DeFi chats. So some of our calls and some of our apes, so to call them, were like, let's say we found Imagine AI on day one, practically in the first hours, and then tokens like Pepe and like Ben and Bob and whatnot. So, I mean, speaking of shitcoins and meme coins, but also when it comes to DeFi, you can see that all of the current trends and narratives, we've actually front ran the market quite a good number of times. So I'm very confident there, actually.
Damn, that's so. Anything you want to elaborate? I mean, you don't want to give away too many strategies here, but like, what kind of like makes a good trader? How can people kind of employ these strategies? Like, is there any advice that you can give?
So speaking of coins or of NFTs, because I'm a complete dumbass when it comes to
not
NFTs.
NFTs.
But
Not NFTs. Coins, of course, of course.
okay, so that absolutely. First of all, networking is super important. There is absolutely no success, in a solo work. So you have to connect yourself with mind-alikes and with people who are aiming for the same thing, and people who are willing to share knowledge and who are here to empower you and to help you feel comfortable with yourself and with the way that you're doing research, right? This was actually primarily our focus as a group. So we had a couple of people who were complete newbies, and there shouldn't be any differentiation between a newbie and somebody who's a Chad, because everybody was a newbie once, right? And from my own perspective, how I did it, I spent a lot of time just reading. So before actually starting with crypto, I was reading everything that I could read on crypto, literally everything, and spending hours every day. So research is crucial, networking is crucial. You have to know how to manage risk, right? You don't go full Rambo and ape your whole portfolio into one coin. You always have to have an entry and exit strategy, and never rush trades. There's always a moment where you can buy that specific token at a good price. Don't FOMO in. FOMOing is a bad thing. And another thing is like diamond handing. I'm really not a fan of that term, because I think it's been brought up by some big boys who have 8-9 figures portfolios and like to have exit liquidity at all times. So diamond handing versus rotating, I'm always up for rotating, but it all funnels down to networking and doing research the right way. And there is like an insane amount of materials and good people to follow on Twitter and on YouTube from which we can learn something. It's like this the same thing how I did it, just reading and watching videos and talking to people, and then once I had the confidence, I bought in, and it developed pretty well.
Hey, Fungi, one thing I'd love to kind of dive deeper on with you is I agree with everything that you said. For me, it was all about just reading as much information as possible early on. But I'm sure, like you, I found there's a quality control issue out there. Are there any sources that you really like that you can share with folks out there where you found valuable information that's actually fact based versus speculative, that's worth kind of sharing with the audience?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of my role models would be Steven, the calculator guy. He also has a YouTube channel, the calculator guy, right? And he runs a Discord group which is called the DeFi Dojo. It's a fantastic group. It's like there is such a concentration of good info, of good research, of amazing people, and really, really such a super friendly space, to be. It's like I would also, I'm biased. I would also suggest Fungi, but the thing is, we have a very small and capped Telegram group specifically so we can control the environment, because there's always bad players in the space who like to shield their own tokens and then try to run a P&D scheme, and you can't control these things if you have like 5,000 people in the Telegram group, right? Rec Diomedes, his Twitter profile, the other profile would be the Daily Degen. So really, really a nice source of info. Honestly, there's so many of them I can't even, but I would definitely suggest the calculator guy as number one. Even his YouTube videos, he explains everything in detail and very very feasible.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, these are great recs. I'll throw out a couple others for the audience. I've been a big fan of Blockmates. A couple of guys out of, I think they're now in Bali, but out of the UK. I just find in general they dive deeper. They tend to cover tokens and companies a lot of other companies don't. They tend to approach things similar to what you said, more from like a research angle versus a shill angle. So that's one I would shout out. And then the other one that I've actually been super impressed with lately has been Blockworks. I think there's been some changes over there. They hired, I believe, a new editor from Wall Street Journal, if I'm correct. But in general, I've noticed a lot of the content has shifted, and it's becoming more trader focused. I think they're starting to create a little more of a bridge between TradFi and DeFi. But for someone that didn't grow up in the financial sector, like I've actually found a lot of the recent content and new shows there to be really really informative. So yeah, thanks for those tips.
3PO, any other resources that you guys consume, or yeah, I'd love to hear your take on this as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest and just say follow Fungi Alpha right now because that guy sounds like he knows what he's doing. Yeah, like I said, I don't really trade too much. I'll be honest with you. I wish I could, and I'm gonna try. But earlier I talked about being a bad trader. It's mostly because I forget what I bought, and so I forget to sell it because I'm at work and then I come home and then I got 4 kids, and that's not an excuse, but it's like by the time 11 o'clock comes around and I'm jumping on, it's like, oh, like super green candle with a super down bad, So it's like, all right, probably not going to trade a lot, but Fungi Alpha sounds like he's got all the alpha. That's who I would go with.
Thank you so much. I have a small tip here because you said that you're buying tokens and you forget about them, and you don't get to sell in time, right? Just place limit orders. I
There you
mean,
go. See,
you can say use a portfolio tracker such as DBank or Zerion and input the token contract address so you can see it in your portfolio at any time and its value. And presumably, if you bought a token at, I don't know, at the price of $1 and you would like to sell it when it's $1.50, just place limit orders. And for that, I would suggest probably Unidex.exchange, and well, 1inch is a good solution. And one that I also like is Chromatica Finance because it's very specific because you can place limit orders, and while your order is open, you're earning fees. But yeah,
so
portfolio tracker and limit orders, yeah, that would be the solution.
Bam, bam, y'all heard it here first.
G3, I'll give you a couple more. I feel the pain. I'm a dad too, and the struggle is real. But one of the other things that I like to do is I like the CoinMarketCap app a lot, but I actually like the alert system on the CoinGecko app even better. So what I'll do is, I don't have the bandwidth or time to, to your point, track like 10 different tokens or 10 different trades, but I might pick a couple things that I'm bullish on or a couple things that I want to rotate into. And then a lot of times what I'll literally do is just open up the CoinGecko app, and I'll just set like alert when it goes up by a certain percentage or alert when it drops down by a certain percentage. So, definitely limit orders is a is a more efficient way of doing it. But at least this way, it's like I'm getting mobile alerts in my pocket, and I go, all right, I got to drop everything right now and make a swap. But yeah, hopefully that's some helpful info for you.
Yeah, earlier this year I had 4 weeks off because we had twins, and during that time I was making good money, and then I had to go back to work. So limit orders, there you go, folks.
So I know we talked about a little bit of this before, so I won't go super in depth. But meme coins, good or bad for the space? Fungi Alpha, you begin.
Good or bad for the space? I would say good, because you have to attract people from outside into crypto, and probably the lowest hanging fruit would be by saying there is money to be made. And this is a funny take, but it's true. If you talk to people who are not into crypto, 90% of them will say, "Oh, Dogecoin, oh Shiba," It's like I'm not really a fan of either Dogecoin or Shiba, because I basically missed both of them. And funny thing is, I called actually Dogecoin before I was even in crypto because I saw the sentiment on 9gag, which is like a platform for memes, and I saw people talking about Doge and Dogecoin. I told to a friend who actually was lurking me into crypto. I told him, look, you should buy this Dogecoin. And he said, you're fucking nuts. And it turned out that it went up like 1000x, So I think meme coins and shit coins are good for the space to an extent, because after a certain period of time, the space becomes congested and it becomes saturated with these. And that's not a good thing because we've recently seen an exodus of users from legit DeFi platforms and protocols into shitcoins and meme coins because everybody would like to make a quick 10x or 100x or 1000x, whatever, and that's not a good mindset. Easy come, easy go. It's you should make money, but shitcoins and meme coins are definitely not something to rely on in the long run because 99% of the people in shitcoins and meme coins are just losing out, and it's not that useful, for the humanity. It's like a casino, basically, I would say.
Yeah, no, I agree with pretty much all that. Like one thing I was going to add, just a little alpha based on what you were saying is, I'm a marketer, and in marketing, there's all kinds of different, tools and resources that we use. One thing that I found very interesting in this industry is there are, different tools that you can use for like sentiment tracking and sentiment analysis, and a lot of these things are like 20 grand a year. But you'd be surprised by how many VCs, both native and non, are using these tools as like general market shift indicators and movement indicators. So don't sleep on sentiment analysis, folks.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I could actually suggest a couple of good platforms. I mean, okay, you mentioned the 20K one, 20K a month ones, like that's probably the Nansen top tier subscription, right? But
Yeah,
there's
it's like
also
Nansen or Sprout Social, some of the more traditional ones. Yeah.
yeah, there's also Archem, which is a good substitution to Nansen, and it's way cheaper to use. It has better pricing models. Then there's also Blockpore, and recently one that I like a lot is actually called AlphaScan. It's currently in alpha phase. It's basically like a sentiment oracle, which will have also specific mechanics. So you can basically buy a token while using that platform, and it's based on social platforms. So it tracks sentiment of social platforms such as Twitter and later on probably TikTok and Instagram and which not, you know. It's a very, very handy tool. It's like you can follow a specific set of Twitter chats, and whenever they call a token, the platform automatically indexes that token and it tracks the performance of their call. So you can see, okay, I've been following, say, Kaduna, who is a prominent name in the DeFi space, and I can click on his name and I can see he's mentioned, say, Libra token or GMD or GND, and I don't know, level or ED, and I can see when he called these tokens and how they performed since that day that he called them. You know, it's like you can see it went up 300% since the first time that he has mentioned the token. So this is quite a good platform if people find Nansen or Archem to be somewhat complex, because they actually are quite complex. And another platform that I think, you know, a lot of institutions are using is Token Terminal, but it doesn't cover all of the platforms. It's absolutely brilliant.
Swanky.
Yeah, those are all great tips. One thing I would add that's kind of interesting is like I think all of us know CTE right now is a bit of a ghost town. Hopefully, macro will bring more folks back. But a lot of these companies, and you can do a little bit of research and digging, they'll basically build bots, which folks have to opt into them. It's not like they're hacking into anything, but a lot of companies will allow these bots into their Discord or into their Telegram, and then what that's doing is it's data scraping, and then the next thing you know, you're actually getting sentiment analysis across like every crypto native social platform versus just Twitter. So I'll definitely have to check out AlphaScan. That's a great rec. But yeah, very familiar with Arkin and Blockport. Great recommendations for folks. What about you, G3 Swanky? You guys want to talk about good or bad meme coins?
I was gonna say. Oh, sorry, G3. Are they good? I think the jury's out on that one. I see. A term I've seen a lot recently is attention economy. You know, behind the meme coins, and I just think that's a crazy thing. You know, we're in the most least attentive space ever. You know, these degens move on something like within hours. So you know, I think that's a dangerous thing. It's easy to get wrecked, but I mean, it reminds me of people a lot of times say Web3 is a bit like gambling. You know, buying coins is like gambling, and I agree. But not necessarily for that reason. A lot of the, you know, back in the UK, I've known people that are big into the gambling, their horses and things like that. And one thing they've all got in common, the ones that, you know, are successful at research. So, you know, I do think it's very linked to that. And, you know, a lot of these people do a lot of research. And I think that's the only way you can win at coins. That's the only way you can get, you know, you get as much information as possible from wherever you can get it and be triple sure that, you know, obviously it's always going to be a risk, it's always going to be a gamble, but it's better to have, you know, a gamble that, you know, at least there's a chance, you know, like it's not a full-on gamble. It's I can't think of the word, but you know, it's yeah. My brain's gone blank, but you know what I mean. It's I'm trying to think of the way to put it now.
Yeah, I think the best way to answer this is if you've made like a 10x, it's probably good for you, right? Like it's gonna feel pretty good. If you've lost all your money, it's gonna feel really bad. I think as long as people realize that it's a gamble and that they're gambling, you know, much less as like you said, like a casino, then it's kind of hard to say that it's a complete negative because it is allowing some people to make money on their money while other people lose, you know, but it's probably going to sound harsh. There's winners and losers all the time. Doesn't matter if you're doing stocks, doesn't matter if you're doing penny stocks, doesn't matter if you're doing shorting, longing, crypto, NFTs, cardboard, you know, Pokemon cards or baseball cards. So I think short term, probably negative because of the perception of the space. Long term, I think Fungi Alpha mentioned that it does bring new investors into the space, and if we want to keep CT going and NFT and all everything that's within this ecosystem is you're going to need liquid to continue to prop it up. So probably a good thing long term.
But I see it more like say if you're gambling on football gambling, people you study the team, you do all your research and you put your gamble on, and you think this is whereas a casino, a roulette, you just put in a number on there. Now there are some coins that are like that. They're not the ones you want to be in. You want to be in the ones where you think there's a prospect, there's a good chance of success, but no one knows. No one, even with NFT, with pretty much anything in life, you can't be sure on anything. If you're getting in something early, you can't be sure of the success of it. If you got in Amazon early, you wouldn't have been sure of the success of it. So that didn't go off to the greatest start. So you've got to be to win. You've got to be in there early. That's the key. You've just got to be in the right things. And I think this space with the tools that have been mentioned by Fungi Alpha and stuff like that, that's the best thing you can do. Educate yourself as much as you can before you ape in.
Yeah, no, I think you made some good points. I mean, I pretty much agree with everything you guys were saying. I would say, my take is, I think from a top funnel marketing perspective, it's good, right? Because, I look at how hard it is to get coverage in things like TechCrunch, and we get, a Pepe mention there. And so I think in terms of driving awareness within, the normies, or driving mass awareness, or even just driving, interest or consideration there, I think everything helps, especially kind of in the early days. But yeah, I think we just have to be careful because, the more bad actors, the more kind of, inside sales and things like that. Obviously, none of that's good for the space and not good for the general kind of perception of the industry. So great points, I think, from both of you guys.
100%. And look, I guess we got a couple more questions for you, and we'll definitely let you guys go on your way. I know your time is very precious. Just kind of want to ask about ordinals because they're all the rave. They're getting hot again. Have you guys been paying any attention to them at all? And what is your overall take on Bitcoin NFTs in general? Blake, do you guys want to go first?
Yeah, I thank you for asking that question. I do have to drop in 8 minutes because I have something else that I got to get to. But to answer your questions, I actually just made my ordinal wallet last night, if that tells you anything. I feel like the signs are there. This is going to be the next thing, right? We had, they were here, I think, a few months back, but not a whole lot of people paid attention to them. Then meme coin season hit. And I think ordinals is going to be the next wave. They'll probably be around just as much as NFTs are. The tech is still kind of out there. I think two platforms really just made a wallet that has a slightly cleaner UI. So I think it'll take off. I think it will take some of that market share away from ETH, but I think overall ETH we'll probably regain that. But yeah, I mean, over probably the next 30, 60 days is probably all you're going to hear about. So, if you have some Bitcoin to spare, this is not financial advice, but again, the signs are there. All the flags that this is going to, go up in the next few weeks are there. So just, that's what I'm preparing for basically. So yeah, last night I made my wallet and loaded it up with some Bitcoin, and we'll see where it goes.
Love that. A lot of orange on the Twitter feed. Swanky, what are you thinking?
Yeah, same thing. I've been seeing it popping up. I made a wallet. I haven't got any Bitcoin in there, but I made a wallet. I remember seeing it a couple of months ago, was it? And it didn't seem like the tech was there. It seemed a little bit like the Wild West, people sending money to someone, it all seemed a little bit risky. But it seems now as GP says, there's a bit of tech behind it now. It's starting to build out the sort of ecosystem there. So, yeah, I do think there's going to be something there. I mean, hopefully, obviously it's a different chain, but hopefully, with NFT, it'll bring back to NFTs as a whole on ETH and Cardano and whatever other chains as well as ordinals. But yeah, there's definitely, we're definitely going to see, a few ordinals coming out in the next few weeks, I would imagine. Yeah, we'll see how that plays out. It's definitely worth, keeping an eye on and seeing if there's anything worth, any decent entries and things like that. Try and get on a few whitelists, etc.
100%. Fungi, what are you thinking?
Well, yeah, I would agree with everything that has been said so far. I think there is definitely space for ordinals, and not just ordinals, but also Bitcoin DeFi, so BRC20s. The reason to that is, just think of things this way. If it comes to some kind of a regulatory catastrophe where altcoins will get wrecked, and where a majority of coins will get wrecked and chains subsequently, right? The last name that will get wrecked is actually Bitcoin. So from that point of view, I think ordinals have quite a strong future. And we had actually somebody in our Telegram group who was into ordinals, I think even on the first day. And nobody had a clue how that thing worked, because he's a Bitcoin maxi, and he later on started his own ordinals DAO, which is quite known right now. And from a perspective of numbers, I think BRC20s and ordinals actually accounted for more than 60% of all of the transactions on any Bitcoin, on Bitcoin in general, actually, in last week. So there's definitely hype around these. And I think that another player in the NFT space will be historical NFTs. Nobody's thinking about these, because if you are into ordinals, you always want to find that inscription which was inscribed as early as possible, right? And then you have historical NFTs. You have also it's like name services which have been in the markets before the Ethereum name service. Like, actually, the oldest name service is actually .og, and if you want to learn about historical NFTs, you can follow a guy on Twitter. His name is Leonidas.og, and he's probably the coolest guy when it comes to historical NFTs, but generally super bullish on Bitcoin DeFi, on ordinals, and on BRC20s. And I think there will also be a little bit of a hype for LTC20s and Litecoin NFTs, because we have Litecoin nearing buy, and it's going to be a pretty bullish phase for Litecoin maxis.
Dang. All right. Well, I'm getting bullish, out here on Bitcoin NFTs. I guess the last question, because I know you guys got to run. What's next for you two? Like, what can we look forward to from Fungi Alpha and the Plague over the rest of 2023? G3PO, I know you got to run, so why don't you go first, my friend?
Man, we got some heat cooking. I think the biggest thing that the Plague is going to roll out here in the next few weeks is Project When. That's not the name, but that's what we're calling it, When Utility. It's kind of, I know this gets thrown around a lot, the first of its kind, but we really do think it's the first of its kind. It's a supply chain solution / product that'll change the way that business can be conducted on chain through the supply chain. So we have that coming up. We have partnerships with Neo Hakeshi. That one's really huge. Some big names there. Studio Ghibli, our manga artist has taken part in Studio Ghibli, if you know what that is, and his mentor. Also with production in Final Fantasy, so they're dropping a project here pretty soon in partnership with Plague. We have a bunch of projects that came out of the Frog Tank that are making moves and making strides. We got Chompies. We have non-fungible travel, which provides discounts on traveling. So if you have a frog, you automatically get a passport there.
That went live today, G3. By the way, that went live today.
Chompies game is live. It's not quite a Web3 game. It's a Web2/Web3 game that you can download for free on your app right now. Swamp Water is getting ready to release, I think, a pretty good announcement on some of the pre-order stuff. And we have probably 2 or 3 more businesses in the Frog Tank hopper that we're getting ready to roll out as well, with at least another 10 to 12 that are waiting in line. So everything's cooking up, I think, for the Plague. I can't comment on the FRG LP, but I will say that the community itself has launched an LP for FRG. You can go check that out. I think Platty Mama, who's in the crowd, they're talking about that later in a space. Again, I can't comment on what I think about the LP, but just want to make sure that you all know that it's out there. So yeah, we got quite a bit going on. Swanky, did I miss anything?
The DAO, I suppose. We've got the DAO coming up. We're going to start, obviously, Pod has already released the governance about it, so that'll be coming soon. I can't think of anything else, but there's loads of other things else, and I can't think of anything else. I don't know if I'm allowed to say about it, but yeah. A lot coming up. It's going to be a very, very busy couple of months for the Plague and the Frogs, so exciting times.
Frogs are jumping all over the place is what it sounds like. Special shout out to Pons, obviously. Fungi Alpha, same question to you. What do you got going on the rest of 2023?
Yeah, so we've been focused on the newsletter that we're working on, and we'll probably push out the first article in the coming weeks. What we want to achieve with the newsletter is I'm subscribed to quite a good number of Substacks and newsletters. Whether it's Milk Road, whether it's Blockmates, whether it's Lens Ledger. Really a good number of them, and I'm that type of a person. I want to know things nobody else knows. It's like, if you provide information, I want to be the guy who provides better information. It's not an egoistical take, it's just that I think that you can always do things in a better way. That's why when I write, say, these weekly recaps or alpha lists, I basically literally read all of these articles, which I mention in post, check all of these projects, check their Discords, check their Twitters, check their docs, read through them, and figure out, okay, this is legit, this is not legit. And our newsletter will be different because we want to put a good emphasis on DeFi, and we want to be feasible for people who are not as savvy. It's like some of the Substacks are absolutely brilliant, but I can't imagine that my normie friend will have, the capacity to read these. I mean, when I say capacity, I would say the knowledge on crypto. It's like you have to have a good amount of knowledge before starting to read some Substacks. And that's sometimes not a good thing, because how are you going to onboard somebody if you scare them away with complex stuff and complex materials? I always say this also to teams who are building their projects and their dApps. It's like, look, if I test a dApp, I will take my time and I'll go thoroughly through it and check every single segment of it out. But the majority of people, they will just try to connect to dApp. It'll be tricky at first. They can't figure the thing out in the first 5 seconds, and they'll give up and they'll just use a different dApp. So you have to take into consideration this laziness factor in people. And I always say this psychology is super important, not just in real life, but also in crypto. And you have to know how to apply it. I mean, you can offer a complex product, but you can simplify it. It's like, that's our focus. When in these weekly recaps that I have mentioned, they're very simple. I always think, is it something that somebody who just joined crypto can understand? And it's like, I don't want to use an Oxford dictionary to write up an article because I personally can't understand it. My English is I'm not native. English is not a native language, right? So I always think there is a lot of people who are not native in English, and you have to sum things up in a very simplified manner. So we're working on this newsletter, and it will be free of charge. There will probably be over time a paid section as well, but that'll be at like a negligible cost, like a couple of dollars per month. So I think that should be completely fine, because we'd also have to hire a few more writers and people who would help us with work, and I think that should be completely fine. And we'll keep pushing out so we have weekly recaps, we have alpha lists, we have threads on specific projects, we have AMAs with different teams, and I'm currently working on yield opportunities. So for people who want to have, like an all-in-one option when it comes to crypto and specifically DeFi, it's like, just come to our Twitter. You will see the latest news. You will find the latest projects. You will find threads on good projects, and you will soon also. Again, I'll soon start publishing the yield opportunities and probably threads on some tools you can use, some websites, and generally trying to help each other out so we can all together grow as one. Because it's not a space which develops on an individual level. It's like we have to do it together, or else we won't succeed.
100%, man. Look, I appreciate all the alpha that you shared today. And we're definitely going to be following Fungi Alpha and all the updates that you post in those beautiful newsletters as well. Basic Degenomics is brought to you by Hashflow. Make sure you give them a follow. We have awesome conversations with people every Thursday, like the Plague and Fungi Alpha. Stay tuned for next week. We got some dope guests as well. Andrew, I always appreciate you being here and joining as well. Is there any final words, sir?
No, just wanted to say thank you, gents, for joining. I'm a huge fan of both of your communities, as you both already know, and just really excited to have you guys as part of the launch of the Hashverse. So thanks again.
Awesome, everyone. Well, much love, and we shall be chatting soon. Enjoy your weekend. It's coming up soon. All right, everyone. Peace out.
Awesome.
Peace.
Thanks, everyone.